Well, look, there's obviously a lot of money to go around in a sense, and that's a good and a bad thing. We've seen, I think it was a sort of $200 to $300 million announcement come out from the sports minister in recent times. And look, Grant's still got, I think, $20 billion left of the COVID recovery and response fund. Now, I say that again with a bit of caution, but also an opportunity. On one hand, there is money to go around. On the other hand, everyone wants the money. So there's going to be a lot of competition to try and secure that funding. What I do think is important, and for the likes of sport and recreation, is similar in my mind to how the likes of arts and creative sector is likely to move, is you've seen some investments coming through. You had $83 million coming through for the short term, 104 million for a bit of a rebuild and reimagining models, and 78 million for innovation, and that's just in the sports and rec center sort of sector. The challenge, I think, is going to be realizing that this is not an ongoing pool of money. In many senses, this is the biggest injection that the sector might see for a while. And it's important that, one, you recognize that it might not be ongoing, but two, that you do enough with it. So it's not just getting you back towards normal, but it's setting you up for the future. And I think that's the thing. Looking at investing and redeveloping ideas is going to be quite important as we move through this. The focus as well, I guess, from the government's funding is that they want to make sure that activity gets back to normal, but also that we start to, where possible, solve some of the issues we've always identified, but they've always been a little bit in the too hard basket, or we weren't making enough progress. And I say that because, again, Grant Robertson's talked about if your house is burning down, you wouldn't build it back the same way. And I guess when we think about redeveloping the blueprint for the house, it's going, well, look, we always knew, that hallway was just too long and the kids were too far away from mum and dad. So actually, when we build it new, we'll put those rooms closer together. I say that in the sense that you couldn't do that when the house was still standing. It was too hard. Now, when you have to rebuild, you have to reshape, you have to reimagine, that's where you can do some of those things. And the focus, I think, from government's been quite clearly on how do we redevelop and make sure we're bringing everyone on this journey. How do we bring in some of the different groups? How do we bring in young people? How do we bring in Māori? How do we bring in women? And I think for something like sports and recreation, there's also a big need to focus on what are both the progression pathways, if you will, for people who are engaged in the sector, but also recognizing that there is a continuum, if you will, between people like me who are super lazy and would love to get involved with sports, but don't know my two left feet from each other, through to very professional athletes, if you will. And I say that in the sense that there is quite a range of people, and there's no one size fits all change that comes through this. Age ranges, skills, interest, and all of those different challenges are going to be important to grapple with as we get that money and re-evolve and reimagine.